I just want to give you a quick heads up about the timed writing assessment, how to introduce it to your students, any preparatory steps you need to take before you let them start working on it, and so on. So first thing to notice is it is in your default Foxtail Liba build. It should be in your Foxtail site. And if all worked out, you should also have the blank timed writing rubric that you can use as a tool, just as a tool for you to use as a teacher. And so I say leave hidden because basically this is a blank assignment with the timed writing rubric attached. It won't attach to a quiz, so this is a workaround. I say more about that in the training videos back from the summer. But I just want to focus on helping your students get ready for the timed writing assessment and show you how to talk about it with them. So what I would do is I would point out first of all to your students that the timed writing assessment instructions are here in Foxtail, and they can read the instructions. It'll be exactly the way it appears when they start the quiz. They will just simply receive a passage that is populated from a small bank of pre-prepared passages. And for your information, they come from either Silence or The Great Divorce, those being our two shared course texts. And so then they can read the instructions, which I will let you do on your own, 400 to 600 words, interpreting the passage, presenting a thesis statement, and identifying specific features and patterns supporting their interpretation. The rest is actually things they have all seen before. They have the close reading guide question prompts that help them observe things in the passage on multiple different kinds of levels as they perform a close reading, looking at language, purpose, themes, and narrative development, and so on. And they are encouraged to use a dictionary to look up the meanings of words if they would like to. It is no different, really, in the nominal differences between this and the close reading 1 and 2 essay. It is exactly the same. It's different in the sense that it's timed. It is slightly different in the sense that we don't require all of the parts of the close reading with an introduction, the block quote, the analysis, and the conclusion moving out towards application. We don't require all of that. Here, we simply want a thesis statement. The text is provided. We don't want them to reduplicate that in a block quote or anything like that. We just want them to jump right in and start talking about the observations they are making to support an interpretive thesis statement. As you show this to them, what I would highlight a couple of things. One is they should budget their time, and I might give them a quick, or even let them sort of speculate, crowdsource a good budget plan about how many minutes they would spend on different phases. For instance, the first phase is presumably reading that passage several times carefully to themselves, possibly highlighting it or annotating it in a word processor or something on their laptop, and starting to discern different possible observations that can form a thesis. All that pre-writing, we call that pre-writing or invention, they probably need to spend a good chunk of time on that. And so, but they still want to budget that. Is that going to be 15, 20 minutes, something like that? And then they can spend the next hour drafting and spend 20 minutes or so roughly revising and polishing and editing. So some basic 3-part structure like that: pre-writing, drafting, and revising. I think it's good to bring to their attention that those are probably all very necessary phases. They're not going to have great luck if they skimp on the pre-writing. They need to plan what they're going to write. They need to make sure it has a strong thesis statement, and so on. So think about, I would just mention the planning of the budget of the time. Another thing I would mention is that even though it only says a dictionary is allowed, there is a good point was raised recently that I thought was helpful and I would be fine with, which is allowing them to use the close reading guide. And so if they would like to refer to, because that document has some things like figures of speech and different rhetorical terms that they might have grown familiar with as they've written their close reading papers here. And so I'm fine with that. If they would like to refer to the information here as a reference, they can certainly do so. There are some figures of speech that they can look at. One other thing is they'll be taking this exam during finals week, and they will be doing it from home or some other place on their own. It designates research is not allowed, and so we do not want to see that they have external references in their submitted assessment when they write and submit this assessment. But you can understand how it might pass through their minds. Should I or can I be looking at other research as I do this assignment? And the answer to that is no, it's not allowed. And in fact, we'll go further and say it's not advisable. It works against you strategically as the student writing the assessment, because any external supplementary contextual information they find by quickly Googling on the internet or something is not relevant for the work at hand, which is doing a good close reading of a passage. So unless they get very lucky and find someone close reading that specific passage that they happen to get assigned when they open their quiz, lots of over general information about the novel, about the author, about the historical context, that's not really going to be essential, or that's not going to be a game changer for them in their analysis. And actually, one other thing to mention is that having read Silence and Great Divorce, it may in fact be a trap for students to supply from their own memory and knowledge of those two novels. They're excited they had just read them and they may have liked them and remember much about them. They might want to lean on that too heavily, and that might be a mistake. Instead of telling us a lot about the novel in general, make sure that the first, foremost, and almost exclusive goal is to analyze this passage. So highlight for them a couple of those possible traps, because those are distractions, and analyzing the text itself is really the key. I'll just open the preview, the teacher view of the preview, to show you what it looks like. This won't be relevant for you as a teacher, but just so that you're on the same page as your students, this is what they will see. Here is a passage from The Great Divorce. The assignment instructions duplicated here, and here is where they will type or at least submit their typed assignment. One very helpful additional piece of advice is don't type your essay in this box. It has happened on occasion. It may have happened to you as a teacher typing feedback on student essays. If you get a page refresh or an internet signal loss, Foxtail might lose what's in this box before it's submitted and saved. So that would suck. Tell students, don't type your essay in here. I would have them type it on a word processor elsewhere on their device, copy and paste it before their time has run out. You can see the timer here counting down from 90 minutes. All right. I might write a few email comments later about grading the timed learning assessment, but it's nothing that you haven't seen before. It's the same rubric. I might make a few comments about how the timed conditions might adjust the dials slightly on how you grade it, but that's not. It's trivial differences there. One last thing I need to show you, though, is how to put in extra time for students who might be eligible for testing accommodations. As you are probably familiar, some of your students may have been granted accommodations from the Disability Service Office for a time and a half or twice the time on their exams. This hasn't come into play because we don't do timed exams in LIBA except for this one assessment. So instead of 90 minutes, a student may be eligible for, 135 or 180 minutes, depending on their type of accommodation. So you would go, once you've identified which students get what extra time, you go into the user override setting. You find the student who is eligible for extra time, and you put the number of minutes that they're eligible for in this box. Then it shows the student, the amount of time they have, and this list will get longer depending on any additional students that you add. The rest of the students, they are on the default 90 minutes. Okay, I think that basically covers it. I would point out that it's set right now. The quiz is set by default to open midnight, Monday morning, Sunday at midnight on November 29th. When it turns November 30th, that's the first day of finals week. At midnight it opens, and then the midnight of Friday it closes. I would certainly be supportive of you moving that day up, that deadline up, if you feel that your grading schedule during finals week would make it expedient for you to start grading these earlier than the end of the week. That's fine. I don't think your students can be too worried about that. They have a lot of flexibility in here. They just need to take it. They're only allowed one attempt, so obviously they should only take it when they're ready to actually sit down and do it for 90 minutes or so. And one other thing I'll add is once in a while a student will run out of time, and they'll have been working on that essay and they just didn't save it. They have it, they typed it, but they didn't submit it before the time ended. And so you might tell them, if that happens, just email it to you, and you can check the timestamps to make sure that nothing too strange is going on. But I usually am fine. I just accept those emailed versions as long as they're submitted within a few minutes of the closed timestamp on their essays, on their quiz. I think that covers a lot for now. I'll have a couple of statements later, like I said, about grading. And then eventually I'll enter those grades into the spreadsheet that I was showing you last week, where we submit the other portfolio scores. But that's enough for now. Thank you for watching, and good luck with your teaching of the timer.